Yo, what's going on, guys? Ron here, aka Neos, and today, guys, I want to bring y'all some more Elfnote content. So, as you know, one of the videos that I did recently is covering this deck because I think it's a very powerful, very engine heavy, and resourceful deck, basically. Especially going into this next format where resources are kind of the name of the game, right? If your deck doesn't have ways to draw cards or float engine, play over multiple turns. Yu-Gi-Oh has evolved into something that it's not about just how big the board is that you can make, but also can the board stay alive and give you enough next turn that you can continue to play. Um, I do want to talk about just Yu-Gi-Oh here in the intro because Yu-Gi-Oh has changed a lot, guys, in the recent couple of years. Um, it started with Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes was like a incredibly powerful deck because it had everything that I just talked about. Not only was the deck able to put up a very large board, was able to put up negates, was able to play through a lot, had a lot of extenders, a lot of starters, a lot of resilience, a lot of board pressure, a lot of bodies, but the follow up was crazy, right? You Snake Eye Ashing for Snake Eye Ash is something that a lot of people remember from that time. The existence of Poplar was something that's very recent in Yu-Gi-Oh history. It's like when people started calling stuff a Stratos, right? Having that normal summon that got the other monster that started your whole one card combo that gave you access to basically your full board. That where the two card combo started to die, you had Snake Eyes give birth to the Poplar, right? When a deck has a Poplar, they have a card that has an effect that's when it's added to hand, except by drawing it, it special summons itself, right? There's a lot of things in Yu-Gi-Oh that have changed, and I'm I'm honestly I think it's pretty good. I think that it's a lot more fun now. You don't just like lose in 3 turns. There's a lot of grind games now. Mitsurugi is like probably like the most predominant like in the highest tier of that, right? They're always like grabbing follow up. They're always playing on your opponent's turn. They're they just have like a lot of those extenders slash starters. It's it's a new age, guys, and let's be honest, normal summon Stratos doesn't do it anymore. But anyways, guys, enough about the state of Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's get into the deck, which I know that's the main reason why y'all are here. Um, this is the deck that like I said, I've been playing. It's the deck that I'm going to be playing Burst Protocol for the most part. I believe if Mitsurugi is really still that powerful and I can get away with it, I will still play the deck. But I actually do have a very large interest in the Elf Notes because I do think, like, again, they are very powerful, and funny enough, synchros are actually my favorite way to play the deck. I'm a big Tempai guy. Believe it or not, I considered using the Tempai engine in this because, fun fact, this is a 3, this is a 3, this is a 3, this is a 4, this is generic 7. So you can make this very easily, and it's an Elf Note card. So the only issue is there's not a synchro to make that searches, right. You need to use like the Power Patron and whatnot, but and the deck does lock you into synchros, which would obviously not be that big of a deal, but the Fiendsmith stuff is just too good, to be honest. So I'm just going to go over the changes in the deck. The only thing that has changed is on this bottom row right here are these 6 cards. So, or well, actually, just these 3 cards, honestly. So we're not playing 3 Bell. Instead of it's 2 Perulia, 1 Crossout. The reason for that is Crossout going first is just a broken card. There's a reason this card's at 1. And we're playing all of the broken hand traps in our deck, and having something that just tells my opponent no is, pretty good. Um, Even if you don't use it, being able to set it is still very powerful. I actually believe I set this one time in one of my duels, and when I brought back Requiem and I went Requiem effect, apparently they drew into Ash Blossom I went Chain Crossout, Call Ash Blossom, and my opponent scooped because I was gonna. I'm sure they assumed I was gonna dump Paradise, which was the case. So, but the Perulias, I wanted to add more cards into the deck that made it to where like my opponent suffers basically. The Molcharmies are very powerful, right? Molcharmy Fulos and obviously Perulia are just able to kind of force your opponent to play a certain way. Fulos is mainly the case on that, but also like having your opponent debate on whether they just want to start their turn by normal summoning is pretty good. Um, and Perulia is like basically like a guaranteed trade for one. So I thought playing this was a good idea because it basically makes my deck 49 cards. 40 or sorry 39 cards or 38 if I draw two off of it. So no matter what, my opponent is gonna give me it's gonna shrink my deck, right? It's gonna be a deck thinning card basically, which is incredibly powerful. So anyways, I want to move to the extra deck. The extra deck here is the Omega. That is the only other change besides the Link Spider. I got nibbed once, and they put the token in the middle, and I was like, I'm gonna play Link Spider. So that was I lost I lost that game during testing against one of my friends because he was playing Nib, and he was because we were conversating during that time, and he was like, and he nibbed me, and I was like, before you put the token down, where are you gonna put it? And he was like, oh, I was just gonna put it like next to the EMZ, and I was like under the link zone, and he's like, yeah, and I'm like, no, don't do that, put it in the center, and he's like, why? And I'm like, elf notes all have to special to the center main monster zone. He's like, oh, he's like, okay, puts the token there, and I was like, okay, well I lose, I scooped, and I literally was like, give me a second, I need to change the deck. So some people are going to be playing Nib, some people are not going to be. You just need this in there as a failsafe because if somebody clogs your center main monster zone and you lose to it, you're going to feel really bad, like I did. So play this card. Also, we're playing Omega now. Omega is pretty self-explanatory. People, for the most part, know what this card does. It has the quick effect during the main phase to banish this card and a face-up random card from your opponent's hand face up until the end phase, right? So it's a hand rip. That's not the reason we're playing this card. The hand rip is indeed very, very nice and is a addition to the Tiana one, which means that you can basically force your opponent to play into your board with 4 cards, assuming they don't hand trap you. The main thing is actually a secondary and tertiary effect. So once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, you can target a banished card, return it to the graveyard. So, and then I'm going to read the other effect too. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target one other card in your graveyard, shuffle both that card and this card from the graveyard into the deck. So, Rhapsodia of Madness. I talked about this card and like how after it gets removed, it can be kind of painful, right? Um, After you lose this card, you lose access to your negate, which is very, very painful, right? Being able to, not have that negate is pretty bad. And you also do lose access to the floodgate effect that forces your opponent to attack the center main monster, right? So the main thing is like you want to do this with the power patron of tuning. You basically like you want to like before your opponent goes battle phase or after the before they go battle phase, when they threaten it, I should say, you make the power patron, putting it in the center main monster zone, putting it either in attack or defense, and that protects all of your other monsters. So that's to prevent them from beating over Lucina, Tiana, Fortunia if he's on field, your Lacrima if it's on the field. It's to protect all of your other monsters, right? He's supposed to be like their guardian. So once you lose it, whether it gets banished or sent to grave, if it's popped or whatever, you basically there is no in-inch way to get to it, right? You just lose it. This guarantees that you never lose this card. You being able to put it back in the deck guarantees that Fortunia will always be able to set it again. So I believe that this is a mandatory card that you have to play. And I'm going to be showcasing a combo to y'all on how to do that, by the way. So, anyways, guys, the side deck here is basically all the same. I did change some things here, and then obviously there are more cards in it. So as you can see, like I put the imperms in here. I talked about this before. Imperm is way better. in the other video. So yeah, play Imperm. Imperm saved my butt like 4 times, to be honest. Drawing into it, having it as a breaker, it's just too powerful, guys, to be honest. This card is broke. It probably should be semi-limited at the very least, in my opinion. This card is actually broken. Um, but anyways, we're playing Droplet and we're playing like Storm and Duster. This is just like back row hate. This isn't like to dodge flame or anything, but just having access to like upboard breaker sometimes is nice, depending on like those really like monster heavy end boards that some decks are setting up. It's really good into Cool Tune. This kills Cool Tune because you can just like negate their tag out and stuff like that, or you can negate the other stuff even if they have loudness because it doesn't target. So um, this is obviously back row hate. This is the swap out for when I'm going second. So you swap this out for this, and then there's some other cards in here that you take out for whatever is necessary. So there's 3 other cards. I forget off the top of my head what they are, but depending on the matchup, you either side this in, you side this in, and a branded Draco Tail obviously is going to get this. So is regular Draco Tail. For going first, I mentioned this before in the other video. You need to play this card. So that you have these 5 cards. I side these 5 in. Even if you can't play the game and you go like special for like Lucinia, Tiana, Fortunia, whatever, and then you go activate effect and they go imperm and you have nothing else in your hand besides this, you can just activate pass and you should be able to FTK your opponent. This absolutely just decimates Radiant Typhoon. They cannot play the game. This also basically murders Draco Tail and the branded version of it because they obviously cannot branded fusion. They cannot Rahu or Ketu or anything into your board. The only way for them to fuse is normal summon Malulu, which is at 1, and 5 mana. So there's 4 cards on their deck that says let me fuse. That's not a spell. Which by that time you're going to have like Caesar on the field anyways, more likely than not. So they just lose. So yeah, this is also still really good into Yummy. They can't get to the field spell. They can't use Surprise. That's basically it. That's the only things that they play. So pretty good. Into Cool Tune, they can't use the Quick Play spell or Field spell. That's obviously really good. In the mirror match, it's less powerful because they can special this, but what you can just try to do is just bounce their monsters back to hand. And if you do that, there's been times like you can just they go like special Tiana or Lucina, and then you just go like Lucina bounce, and then they just die because they just they don't have another one to special summon. And then keep in mind, it has to be one of these. It has to be one of these 7 here. It cannot be Medius. It can't be this because they're not spellcasters. So a long-winded explanation of this card. It is super broken. This card should be banned, but it's fine. Yeah, I do. Like I said, I want to showcase how the combo structure works when it comes to being able to Omega your opponent and basically double hand rip. So here I want to showcase this. So basically what you need is an access to a Fiendsmith card somehow. Whether specifically it should be either Engraver or it should be your Tract, right? Because you don't want it to be your normal summon. The only time that changes if this is Theo Realize, right? If this is Theo Realize, you could do like normal summon Lacrima and then do all that stuff. If your opponent interacts with it, you go Theo Realize, you're fine. Just keep in mind you need another monster in either on hand or on field. So keep that in mind. But I'm just going to speed through the Fiendsmith stuff right here. This is pretty simple. You have all probably seen me do this no less than 100 times. Fiendsmith cards are broken. That's why we play them. So we do this. If you do start with Engraver here, since you already have him engraved, you can actually just dump the trap right away, which is really powerful. And then here you do this. Like I said before, you do this. That way if you get bailed, you draw a card. You leave these to engrave for follow-up. and then your opponent either nibs you or Azunas you or whatever, or they don't. If they don't, or 5 mana. If they don't, you make this guy, and then here you do. You need to sequence this specifically how I do this. So normal summon, it does not matter where you normal him as long as it's not in the center, right? Assuming you're gonna I would assume that you have another way to play here, right? Lucina, Tiana, spell card, whatever, right? Whatever it might be. You want to leave the center main monster zone open unless your Medius resolves. If Medius resolves, you summon the Patron to the center. And then this is where you trigger its, or you use its quick effect, because it makes the center main monster increases level by 3 until the end of this turn. Right? Boom. Level 4, level 4. This is a tuner. This is how you get access to Omega. So you make Omega, and then this is where you're going to be able to trigger the effect because it was used as synchro material for the Elfnote Power Patron. And then if your opponent doesn't have a response, you could chain here, rip a card, and then you get access to Tiana. This is pretty self-explanatory here. I'm pretty sure I've showed this already. You go Tiana. Tiana gets access to the spell card. Spell card here. You go ahead, send this. You're going to get access to the Lucina. Lucina is going to get you access to Fortunia. And then Fortunia is going to special, which is going to give you access to the trap card. Right, so we've come basically full circle here. Now here specifically, right, you have two options. If you have a monster in hand, you can send that monster as long as it's not a fire. If you don't have a monster in hand, or the monster that in your hand is a fire, you have to send Fortunia, because what you do here is you send a non-fire, however you do that, to get access to the Power Patron, Elfnote. Because now you're going to synchro into Seraphirim, which you put in the center main monster zone, in defense, and then this is where you're going to be able to Seraphirim, bring back Tiana, and then this is like your end board, right? I'm pretty sure I mentioned something similar like this before. This is basically like optimal end board, unless you can put another name on field, which would be preferably Lucinia, right? You want Lucinia and Tiana on the field live immediately, just in case your opponent has plays. And then you want access to Fortunia later in case they threaten like Trap Card, which is not as big of a deal now because of the Psy-Frame. But still, case in point, this is what you pass on, right? Draw phase, your opponent draws a card. You actually have the ability to respond to that draw, right? Because your opponent's taking an action even though it's mandatory. So you go draw phase in response to your draw. You go ahead and you rip another card, whatever it might be. And then, like I said, you still have access to negate. You still have access to Caesar here. It's perfect. Your opponent goes standby, main. They go whatever. Try to do the Fiendsmith stuff first here. You should do like Fiendsmith into this, right? You send, and then you can go effect, summon. Just having the extra body is actually decent, right? You use its effect, and then because now you have an extra body that you can send off of Madness, which is you can get access to the Synchro or whatever, right? So you know, opponent tries to, let's say, okay, here they threaten battle phase, right? So here you go effect, you summon the Lucinia back, and then this is where you can decrease all the levels. Boom, right? And you can actually let your opponent go battle phase here, right? Let's say they go battle phase. Battle phase, let's say they attack with something. You've made all of their monsters that they had before they threaten battle lower in levels by 4. So now, you know, or by 3, I'm sorry. So now that they're all lower levels, unless they were level like 10, you can bounce any of them with Lucinia now. So like now, like I can go like Lucinia, bounce one of their monsters, right? Because they're in battle phase. They're kind of like just screwed, right? So they go through their battle phase. They can only attack the center main monster. This is also important because Lucinia is 25. So they can't even like try to like battle threaten Caesar like right away, which is incredibly important. So here, like they go end of battle. They are in their main phase. And then like, you know, here, right, you have access to the negate. So you can send the Lacrima. This gives you access to the Power Patron. You summon the Power Patron. And then now you can use its effect. You make Lucinia a level 6. And then you can Synchro Summon. this is how you get access to the big guy, right? So you can go big guy, either attack or defense, it doesn't matter. I would just say defense on your opponent's turn because it's bigger. And then this is where you get access to your follow-up. So you have one of two options here. You can either grab the Power Patron, or in my opinion, obviously if they removed Welcome, you would grab Welcome here because any of these monsters can give you, you can remove like the Power Patron of Tuning to get access to Tiana or, whatever, right? So, case in point. Or you can get access to, or you can send, like Caesar if he's still on the field, and then you can actually get Lucinia. Lucinia can get you the Paratron, and then you can Synchro, make the Synchro 10, play from there, right? So whatever it might be. We'll just grab Lucinia here, right? Point is scenario, we're grabbing follow-up. They get their card back, right? And then standby phase, we're going to resolve the Psy-Frame, and they're going to get their other card back, right? So now, right, our opponent should, obviously this is the bot, have played more, right? So at most, they'll probably have like 3 or 4 cards in hand, right? At minimum, they're going to have 2, because we're going to give them back, right? Keep in mind, keep an open slot for your Omega. That way he can come back. You should not have more than like 4 of the Elfnotes on field. And then you should have sent the Lacrima, like I said, for the card effect to bring back the Synchro tuner, right? So here, you just have, look at your access to follow up here. So case in point, you have Engraver, right? So you have Engraver, shuffle back the Requiem. You have Medius to come back. You have in your hand a Lucinia. You have Seraphim if he's still alive to come back. If you don't have Seraphim, you assuming you have a monster of a different attribute, you can bring it back with the Madness. Let's say worst case scenario, Madness is gone. Put 2 monsters on the field with the Psy-Frame, and then you can put it back in the deck. That way you can bring out Fortunia later. There's just a plethora of things that you can still do here. So, but that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to showcase to y'all. I hope that helps. I hope that brings some enlightenment to the deck, and really puts in perspective just again how powerful this deck truly is. Like I said, this deck is broken. I don't say that for no reason. I don't think that I've ever been wrong on that. To be honest, whenever I say like a deck is incredibly powerful for X amount of reasons. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, to comment, hit the notification bell, that way when I post more content. Hit the subscribe button as well. And yeah, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.